Hello, welcome to Coping with Donald. I'm Phil. It's January 26, 2026, 2 days after the death of Alex Pretti in Minnesota. Uh, it's been gone over, or it seems like weeks. It's been gone over and over by people on mainstream TV and on videos and by our government many times already. Um, There isn't really much that I can add to it, but I do want to point out a couple of things. The first one is that, boy, given the type of person that Alex Pretti was, being a VA nurse, and the last thing he said reportedly was, "Are you okay?" to the woman who was pushed to the ground. He had his backs to the ICE agents because he didn't feel any threat from them. Then they pulled him up and started to punch him and get him into a kneeling position. For those of you not old enough to remember, this was kind of the scene that we would see over and over again during the Vietnam War when people were executed. Notably, the people from the North being executed by the South, since U.S. reporters weren't allowed in North Korea or weren't shown things like that. But I'm sure it went both ways as far as executions went. This was an execution. There's just no doubt about it. For those of you who are worried about the descent into fascism, I'm going to remind you that this is no longer about stopping fascism in the United States. This is about defeating fascism and returning to a form of truly representative government that isn't centered around one person or one family and their own personal benefit. Remember when Zelensky was in the Oval Office and J.D. Vance was wagging the finger at him? You never said thank you, all that kind of stuff. One thing that they both said, but Trump said, I think they both said it, but Trump definitely said to Zelensky, "You don't have the cards." And Vance chimed in, excuse me, that, he doesn't even have people willing to fight for Ukraine. What an insult to the Ukrainians. But nobody's willing to fight for you anymore, blah, blah, blah. It's like 10 months later, and guess what? Ukraine is still there, and we haven't even been helping them. All right? So I would say to the Trump regime, after his humiliation in Greenland, or over Greenland, and the way he went to Davos to insult all the European nations who have been our allies for many years, Trump, I don't think you have the cards. You had to come back here and stop talking about taking Greenland. And we're starting to see that the Trump administration doesn't have the cards. And if we can see the execution of Alex Pretti for what it is, an execution, and we all really know that, and don't fall for, oh my God, the horrible accusations from Noam and Trump and Miller about a man they didn't know, saying he was a dangerous terrorist, a man who, as I said, his last words were like to that woman that had been pushed to the ground, "Are you okay?" And then having the ICE agents gang up on him as he even wasn't even facing them. Again, this isn't about keeping fascism away, it's about defeating fascism, because fascism is presently in control. And just the Vietnam sort of memories that I saw on TV as a young teenager, they just all came flooding back. The world hasn't not noticed this. The US dollar, because in the time of the whole Davos debacle and the Greenland debacle and the Pretti murder on Saturday, in 1 week, this morning on Monday, the stock market was closed last Monday, so from Tuesday to now, the dollar has gone down about 2.5%, folks. If you had $10 million, you just lost $250,000. Now, if you had to pay that in taxes, you'd be up in arms. But this, you're not up in arms. Your purchasing power has decreased. Anything that comes to the country is automatically 2.5% more expensive, not because of tariffs, but because of the fall of the dollar. Just saying. On a personal note, I look into buying a small little place somewhere else. Maybe become like a dual resident of that country and here. I've looked into Thailand, I've looked into Italy. Every time this dollar drops, it becomes less possible. Not just because of the cost of a property I would want to buy, because I'd be looking into very inexpensive properties because I have to, but also because of the future ability to buy food in that country, because their currency will be rising against the dollar. No matter where you're looking right now, except maybe with the possible exception of Argentina. Um, and so he's changed my life in a far less important way than he's changing most lives, because I guess I could stay put in a fascist country if I wanted to. It's just not good for anybody, and anybody who thinks that this isn't going to come back to affect them is, in one way or another, it's ridiculous to think that way. Between money issues, between safety issues, between relationships within your own family breaking apart, this man, Donald Trump, has affected everybody. And everything that I've been warning people about in my own life that no one listened to for 10 years is happening. I really tried to warn people that this man was a lunatic, that he was insane, that he was capable of hurting many, many people. And he set up his Gestapo. He's not setting it up, it is set up now. It's our Border Patrol agents who apparently take precedent over our police forces and even our own FBI now. I think that at the end of this, if there is an end, and I heard someone say this, a pundit on TV, the rest of the world will never trust America again unless there is huge punishment metered out to the people responsible for this. And you have to start with Donald Trump, if he's alive at the end of this, Kristi Noem, Tom Homan, Gregory Bovino, people like that. You start there. But you also have to actually meter it down to each individual person who signed up to terrorize the citizenry of the United States. Whether that citizenry is legal or illegal, United States occupants, let's just put it that way. From arresting children so that they can get at the parents, to violence, the violence that they're displaying. I know I have to leave you now on this really negative note, but people are seeing, and I honestly think that more than 65%, maybe even more than 70%, are pretty horrified about this, even if they're still loving Trump. Before the election, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, I was for a short time dating somebody who loved Trump. And she would say it. She would say, I love Trump. I love Vance. I just love them. She also would say she laughs too much and she's stupid. She's just stupid. She didn't say why she was stupid, but she's just stupid. Those stupid people. She has since moved to a different state. I haven't talked to her in a year and a half. She sent me a note. I guess this is kind of cruel, in a way. On election day, or the day after. And she just wrote, it was a messenger in Facebook. She hadn't talked to me in I don't know how long. And she wrote, I'm so glad Trump won. Which, to a person that you don't even see anymore. And by the way, I did not break up with her. She broke up with me, and in not such a good way either. But anyway, if you're out there and you know who you are, I really wonder if you think this is wonderful. I know she's moved to a different state. She's probably retired now. I, anyway, this has been Coping with Donald. It's pretty hard to cope with this, but I ask you to cope because to do anything now would undermine any chance of us having an election at all. The fact that Trump is through Nome telling Minnesota, "Hey, we'll take our ICE troops out if you give us your voter rolls." I don't think we need to really even talk more about that because we know that they're just going to try to fix elections. They're trying to do that with every state. They're planning on going to Maine next. What kind of crime does Maine have? What kind of insurrection? I'm not insurrection, excuse me. What kind of crime wave or even immigration surge does Maine have? I'll tell you one country that's preparing is Canada, and I hope Canada keeps taking notes on this. I keep the whole I keep the rest of the world in mind on this. Don't let this happen to your country. If you've got a good country, don't listen to those dissidents who say, oh, yeah, it sucks. We should be rounding up people and executing them in the street. Although, of course, they wouldn't say that. They'll just do it afterwards. I don't think, and I know in my lifetime this will never be solved. I I can't imagine us getting. I'm not talking about normal as in the life we used to know, just normal as in some sense of community or kindness to each other. I don't expect that to happen. I don't know, it'll take decades. But for those that the boomer generation leave behind, good luck. This has been Coping with Donald. I'm Phil. You can leave a comment below.